He didn't remember exactly when the worrying started. Only that one day it became impossible to turn off. At first, it was subtle, a quiet tension in the chest when waking up, a faint unease that followed him into the morning. But over time, it grew louder, thoughts looping without permission, scenarios forming without logic, his mind constantly preparing for something bad, even when nothing was happening. He once read a sentence that stayed with him longer than he expected. The mind tries to protect what it believes is fragile. At the time, it felt like a comforting idea. Later, it felt like a warning. Every decision became heavy. Simple choices, replying to a message, checking a bank account, making a plan for the weekend, carried an invisible weight. His body reacted before logic could intervene. Tight jaw, shallow breathing, a nervous system always slightly ahead of the present moment. At night, the worrying intensified. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying conversations from years ago, imagining futures that hadn't arrived yet, convincing himself that something important had been missed, forgotten, mishandled. He would scroll endlessly, hoping distraction would calm his mind, only to feel worse afterward. Everyone else seemed calmer, more stable, more certain. But what he didn't realize was that this constant worrying had quietly become his identity. He worried about money even when bills were paid, about health even when doctors said everything was fine, about relationships even when nothing was wrong. His mind treated uncertainty as danger, silence as threat, calm as something temporary, fragile, unreliable. And the exhaustion was relentless. Not physical tiredness, something deeper, emotional fatigue, the kind that makes simple tasks feel overwhelming, the kind that convinces you rest won't help because the problem lives inside your thoughts. Sometimes he wondered if this was just who he was now, someone who couldn't relax, someone whose mind never stopped scanning for risk, someone who felt behind in life not because of failure, but because fear consumed so much energy. But what happened next would quietly change everything. One evening, after another long day of mental tension, he noticed something unsettling. The worries weren't responding to reassurance. No matter how much he analyzed them, planned for them, or tried to solve them, they multiplied. Each answer created two new questions. Each plan revealed new uncertainties. That's when it hit him. Worrying wasn't protecting him. It was feeding itself. He began to see a pattern. His mind wasn't reacting to reality. It was reacting to the possibility of discomfort, the fear of feeling anxious again, the fear of losing control, the fear of being unprepared. He didn't realize that moment was already reshaping his relationship with his thoughts. Instead of fighting the worries, he started observing them. Not judging, not correcting. Just noticing how they arrived automatically without invitation. How his body reacted instantly, as if the thoughts were facts. It wasn't easy. Some days the anxiety felt louder than ever. But slowly something shifted. He began separating what was happening from what might happen, present reality from imagined catastrophe. He asked himself uncomfortable questions. How much of his life was being lived in anticipation of problems that never came? How often did he mistake discomfort for danger? How long had worrying replaced trust in himself, in time, in his ability to cope? The change wasn't dramatic. There was no sudden calm, no magical moment where the anxiety vanished. But there were pauses, small gaps between thought and reaction. Moments where he noticed the worry, felt it, and didn't immediately obey it. And those moments mattered. Over time, his nervous system began to learn something new. That uncertainty wasn't lethal. That discomfort could be tolerated. That thoughts didn't require immediate action. What followed challenged everything he believed about control. He realized control had never come from thinking more, only from grounding himself in the present, from regulating his breath, from returning to his body, from allowing uncertainty without trying to eliminate it. The worrying didn't disappear. but it lost authority. And there was one realization he only understood later, something that might help others too. In the final stages of his journey, he recognized that anxiety wasn't the enemy. Avoidance was. The constant attempt to eliminate fear had kept him trapped inside it. Learning how to respond differently was what created freedom. If this story feels familiar, if your mind also feels like it never rests, there are psychological insights that go deeper into this process. They reshared in the materials linked in the description and comments, designed to help retrain the anxious mind and reduce fear at its root. Because true peace doesn't come from eliminating worry. It comes from learning how to live without being controlled by it.